Hello, everyone. Welcome to Women Grows Virtual Classroom. I'm Shayla, and I'll be hosting tonight. First and foremost, I wanted to thank Rooted in Good for always supporting Women Grow in our endeavors and for allowing us to use their platform to have our virtual classroom. So today's discussion is going to be about cannabis operation. The cannabis industry is a new industry, so there isn't a lot of education on the topic and how to exactly operate. Learning about cannabis operations involves understanding various aspects from cultivation to legal regulations. Universities and private organizations are beginning to design courses specifically for cannabis studies. Today's panelists are hands-on operators. They work in the industry day to day. I'm so excited to learn the realities of operations. So, welcome everyone. So, I'm going to start with Hope. Welcome, Hope.
Hi.
Hi. Can you please introduce yourself and what you do in the industry?
Yes, thank you so much. Okay, so hi everybody. My name is Hope Wiseman. I am the founder and CEO of Wiseco and Marion, Maine. We own and operate a dispensary in Maryland. We've been operational for 5 years now, and we just went through the change from medical to adult use, which was really exciting. Also, I have a manufacturing license in New Jersey as well. And, I'm working on developing some brand IPs as well. So, yeah, I'm doing a lot in the industry. I'm probably most known for being the youngest Black woman to own a dispensary in the country.
Wow, that's amazing. Yes.
Thank you.
So, now we also have Yvonne. Yvonne, I also wanted you to introduce yourself and welcome to Women Grow.
Yay, thank you so
Yeah,
much. Nice to meet you.
you too.
Um, yeah, I'm, I guess what you would call a legacy operator. We opened our first dispensary in 2007 on Abbot Kinney in Venice Beach, California. And since then, I've expanded to Malibu, California, which is my hometown. And it's been quite the roller coaster, a lot of years in there. I believe I was the youngest when I
Wow.
started, woman of color to own a dispensary. Perhaps you've taken my title, Hope. And, but yeah, no, it's nice to see that women are still making strides in this industry. So yeah, I'm here to answer any questions and shed some light on the
Yeah,
industry.
thank you so much, Yvonne. And last but not least, we have Saman. Welcome. Can you please introduce yourself and tell us what you do in the industry?
You might be muted.
Yes, I think you are muted.
Yes, I was. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
there we go.
Don't let that diminish my excitement. I was very. I wanted to thank Women's Grow for honoring me and having me be on this panel with these other esteemed women here. I think it's wonderful. I'm a big proponent of women in cannabis in leadership roles. I work with a couple women-owned companies and brands that I've helped to develop and to assist with various things that I'll get into. I started in Colorado in my career in 2008, 2009 when Colorado went medical, and I saw that through its legalization to adult use, and came to California in 2016, where I've also successfully launched many brands here and started many Type 7 manufacturing facilities, also in Massachusetts and Florida. And I am a partner in a cultivation license in New Jersey that should be opening up hopefully plants in the ground end of Q1. Hopefully, that's been a long process. But I've been expert in manufacturing and just general business operations and strategies with cannabis. So many more things to talk about, but that's my general history. And again, thank you so much for having me.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much, Saman. So let's dive into our questions for today. So Yvonne, I'm going to ask you our first question. How do you plan to attract and retain customers in this competitive market?
Well, we've been doing this, like I said, for almost 17 years. And from the get-go, we were innovating from before we even opened. Our claim to fame at 99 High Tide is we were the first upscale dispensary in the world. At that time when we opened, it was still the security bars and the just unwelcoming environment. It was the uneducated consultants. It was for lack of a better word, they just weren't trained properly at the time. And we changed all that. We made it a very luxurious experience, somewhere you could take your mother to, your sister, your daughter, your grandmother. And so we've been innovating since we opened. We opened during a time, it was 2007, there were more dispensaries than Starbucks was the headline back then. And you would have competition, like before regulation, you would have a dispensary open up right next door to you. So you had to be innovative. And now, even with regulations, there's a lot more licenses being given out, a lot more dispensaries opening, a lot of more cultivations, a lot more of everything. So you have to stand out. For us, being in Malibu, California, it's a little easier. We're in a bit of a bubble, but we still have to, hustle and stand out by being more of a destination location. Let's say you land at LAX in Los Angeles, you want to have an experience with cannabis. You're not just going to go to, some people might, I just want to get my weed, but other people may want to have an experience. And that's what we provide. We provide an experience where it's just very different. It's beautiful. We have a business next to us that provides wellness. We used to do and still do on occasion massage for people waiting, chair massage or Reiki, or we really believe in alternative healing. Obviously, this is our business with cannabis, but like we really believe in it. We have other things in our as you enter, we have our Malibu Boutique, which has crystals and sage and books on on higher consciousness topics and surf as well. We're in Malibu, so we have a surf stuff and clothing and hats. And also the experience is different. We're the Malibu Mermaids. Our consultants are called the Mermaids. So people want to come meet the mermaids, and they're very, very well trained. Everybody comes from a healing background and has extensive cannabis experience, having worked either somewhere else or have studied extensively. Then we put them through a mildly rigorous experience before they can actually talk to our client base and be a consultant. It's really important, to stand out. So those are the few things we stand out in. Being like, our competition can't say, oh yeah, we're great at consulting, because they're not. And so your mom, is diagnosed with something terrible, you're not going to send her down the road. People will tell her to go to 99 High Tide, because the consultants there will really talk with her, really find what's right for her. And it's a beautiful environment. We have music going on, always pushing the limits of what your license will allow, so.
Okay, that's amazing. And I wanted to ask Saman or Hope, did you want to add to that?
I think the only thing I would add is, like every state and an area is different, so I think that Yvonne had to adjust to the market conditions that she was in. So it made sense for her to create that type of environment there. And I think, just for everybody looking at getting into the industry, you have to figure out what your market needs or where you can like fill a hole and where you can fit in. it might not always be in investing in like the most beautiful looking dispensary. It may be more about in the state that you're in, location and just access, and it might make more sense to invest in being in the perfect spot than your spot, spending $1 million on the build out.
Right.
So that's the only thing I'd add. Everything she said was awesome.
And everything that both of them said is there's not like there's no real wrong answer. It's
Mhm.
you're gonna have to dig deep in your bag of tricks to like come up with something. The competition is real out there, and people are edging onto your market share every moment in this game. And even in a place that has been long standing with cannabis, you still have to be creative. And all I know is that every nook and cranny in this country has something to leverage when it comes to the community aspect. And I think that the best thing people can do is incorporate that, involve that community. They're going to be a big difference maker, but some places are tougher than others. It's a long battle in places like Malibu, I'm sure, like in New York City and other places. Things you're just going to have to be fluid and flexible in this business. If you're rigid in anything, in ideology, in ethos, in expectation, especially, you're going to have a tough time, I think. And competition, you just always have to do something that is right. Creating products from a standpoint of retail is one thing. From products, there's only so many directions to go. So if you're going to be in a lane with somebody else that's doing it well, you have to commit yourself to like better, consistency or a better price, and you're gonna have to ride it out. Whereas other people transcend those metrics, right? Because they have something just intrinsically that people want. And it's a tough game out there, that's for sure. But product-wise, competition with that is really steep. I see it more and more with retailers now because there's less retailers, especially in California. There have been some that aren't operational anymore. So there's less competitors for more market share, and it's intense. And the programs that retailers offer, I'm sure, if Yvonne, you guys have like a text program or something like that. Those really help and those go a long way, but consistency more than anything, in my experience, has been the key. If you're always, if everyone knows the experience they're going to get with you, they're going to be loyal to that.
Okay, so you mentioned something about local community, and that actually goes into our next question. So I'm going to ask you, Saman, how do you plan to engage with the local community and address any concerns?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that's on the top of everyone's mind, operating a business. I feel like at some point the other things in this business become easy to do, and that becomes the hardest target to reach in most cases. You got to know where you're at. You got to know how to communicate with those with the community and with those community leaders. You have to listen. I think that's another thing, is just being there, knowing the market in those areas and what those customers want is helpful. But it's challenging because you really want to do something that looks and feels like you're committed to that community. I don't know if there's a right answer, but I know that there's, historically there's been all kinds of stuff. People doing T-ball sponsorships for little kids sporting teams, doing their own softball league and having people engage in that. I think all those things are really great for the development of, a community and culture within an area. But I personally look for, who's doing the most in those communities, and I'll look for them, on these beautiful social platforms, because that's where they're at, and you're going to be able to identify them. But there's many different ways, and I think it's a great question. I'd love to hear what these other ladies have to say.
Right, that's what I was going to say. Did you guys want to jump in?
Sure, I'll jump in. The question was how to engage with the community.
Yes, it was. How do you plan to engage with the local community and address any concerns?
Right. Well, we've been doing it again for 17 years. So, um, so yeah, I wanted to clarify earlier when I said the quote about more dispensaries than Starbucks back in 2007. In Malibu, like I said, we're in a bit of a bubble, so we really melted and ingrained ourselves into the ethos of Malibu, which is surf and upscale and chill vibes. Where in Venice, where we had the massive competition back in the day, uh, we were an art gallery, so we were also the first hybrid dispensary by way of a visionary psychedelic art gallery, and we held exhibits um, and retreats and high yoga, and like again, this is before regulation, so we were the first consumption lounge before that was even a thing. There was no rule saying you couldn't do it. So I think when I said, do whatever your license allows, there were no licenses back then, so we did what we wanted to do, and we really stood out by opening our doors to the community back then, and still to this day. But you just have to be a part of the community. That's you can't fake that. People have tried to come into, let's say, just Malibu, and hey, we're here in Malibu and we're doing our our thing, and it's just like, yeah, that's not going to work. You actually have to be involved. You have to reach out to people. You have to help in however you can. During the Malibu fires, we were the first business to open our doors, not for sales, but to give out free donated product, and whatever product we donated personally to all the fire victims and the people displaced from their homes, and just things like that. Just being donating is always great. Donating time is great. Um, Having a town hall before you open, having a town hall is nice. Just inviting the community if they have any concerns. I mean, I still find it. I'm from California, so I find it shocking when I'm like, "What? A community has concerns about cannabis, really?" But I mean, they do. They really do, and so you have to address that. Especially parents. They're seeing crazy shit happening with their kids. Things being laced nowadays. Like what? It's like you have to address that and tell them how that's not going to happen. Now this is a regulated industry, one of the most in the world, and how how there's a lot of safety measures in place so that their kids won't have access to this stuff, and the people that do have access, it's safe, it's tested. um, so things like that, just always being open and attending, as unfun as it is attending your city council meetings. Just whenever you can, at least tuning in or being there, or meeting with your council people. It's a small microcosm of how politics work in the whole grand scheme of things. Meeting them, asking them out to lunch, telling them your concerns, asking them if they have any concerns, inviting them over to your place, showing them how awesome you are. Things like
I love that. Alrighty. Hope, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I think so. Something that I kind of teach people, there are different stages to the business. Depending on where you are, I would say like really depends on how I would say to engage in the community. And even before you have your license, like Yvonne mentioned, there are like a lot of ways to engage the community and show that you genuinely want to be a part of it. So and you've even seen like MSOs that are in different states adopt this philosophy and kind of always have that local presence wherever they are, especially from a retail standpoint, because you're customer facing. So, you see how important it is, regardless of who you are and what company you are, to be a real true member and part of the community. So, before you're licensed, even being a part of contributing to the regulations is huge. Talking to the people that are actually making up the zoning and also the state regulations, or if your state is one of the ones that the local municipalities have more power, the local regulations that govern the industry. They want to hear from you. They want to hear from the people that are interested in the industry and that it will affect the most. So, I think that that's a really great way. Also, while you're doing that, engaging the local communities, you can talk directly to those community leaders and hear about what the local community is missing, and you can figure out how to fill those gaps. And it doesn't always, Yvonne mentioned stuff like this, and Simone did as well. Like, it doesn't always have to be directly money. Could be volunteering or offering up. It could be offering up space. I know for me, I'm like I said, I was a medical dispensary for the past 5 years. And where we're located, in the area that we're located, it's an opportunity zone in the state, as well as it is an area that experiences food insecurity. So, they don't actually like to use the term a food desert. But for those of you that don't know what that means that there are no grocery stores within a certain mile radius. So we partnered with a local nonprofit to offer our space for a farmer's market during season. And that's something that we've been able to do that directly the community needed, and we were able to do without having to necessarily come out of pocket. But that took a little research and going to events and going to the Prince George's County dinner or holiday party or all these things, and it takes kind of doing that hands on the ground, grassroots kind of research to figure out how you can contribute in that way. But that makes all the difference when you have to go into these negative conversations. On the flip side, I just also had to testify at a city council hearing as they were contemplating voting that all new dispensaries in the county must go to industrial zones only. And I had to explain and combat a lot of negative stigma. I mentioned this as well. A lot of it is just misinformation about what kind of how their kids are getting cannabis, and oh my goodness, it's going to be near grocery stores now, everyone is going to be high. I'm like, oh, it doesn't quite work like that. Like, oh, I don't want to sell it. I'm like, we have very specific laws about using cannabis on premises and all these different things. It's just a lot of miseducation, so that comes into it too. But you have more leverage in that conversation if you are a steward of the community rather than being, that stingy business owner in the corner that just gets everybody high and makes all the money, because that's the way they think.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Okay, that was actually very informative. Hope, I'm going to ask you our next question. What are your plans for hiring, training, and retaining skilled staff?
Yeah, that has been a learning cycle for me. So I'm unique in the fact that I started my business with my mother, who is like my right hand. My GM of my store is a longtime family friend. I call him my fairy godfather. Known him since I was like 16. He's my mom's best friend. Like my assistant manager is related to our investor. Long story short, it's like really a family owned and run business. So the people that are, closest to me, I've known forever. Granted, now we are growing and expanding, and new people are coming in and it feels different. And also I'm in retail. I have 40 people on my payroll for one store. Wow. So, a lot of these people are part-time, but a lot of my, bud tenders, we call them experience agents. Yvonne calls them consultants. Our experience agents come and go. So it's us developing a solid training program that makes sense. I think that was like something that we had to like really figure out. How do we train people, but get them on the floor, in a quick enough time period where it makes sense. Also, there's a financial aspect associated with hiring people. Most cannabis companies across the country, you got to do background checks and these things. You got to register with the state. It takes time. It's not as simple as you can hire someone there on the floor tomorrow. And then add on if you have a specific standard of training that has to happen before. So for me, retaining talent is really, really important, especially at like higher management levels. And we've been able to do it really by fostering. We're like a true startup in the sense that like everyone kind of wears different hats at a management level. And I think just letting everyone be privy to my vision. We talk about that a lot. That's how I've been able to build my team. And then now on the retail side, and we've kind of built this like revolving door of, all right, this is kind of our formula of how we get people on the floor. And it's really just by tiering them, starting them with inventory so they can learn the products and ask questions before they can really get on the floor. And then going from there.
All righty. Thank you. Saman or Yvonne, did you want to add to that?
Go ahead.
Sure. What was the original question?
It is, what are your plans for hiring, training, and retaining skilled staff?
Oh, wow. Well, some of our staff members at our store, which in Malibu, that one opened up almost 9 years ago, have been there 9 years. So I think it's more, the question I think for me is, how do you retain your staff? And I think that, it's easy to hire. It's really hard to fire. And it's one of the worst things about being a boss is firing somebody. And you don't ever really know if that's going to happen, but you can try and, have some insurances that it doesn't. And that's really vetting the person, calling references. Sometimes we don't want to do that because we're like, oh, they're great, let's just hire him. But you have to, call their references, ask around. My husband's my partner, my best friend, my partner. And so that helps a lot. Our investor and co-partner is a dear friend. Some of the consultants that have started with us originally were all friends as well. And oftentimes that works great. Sometimes it doesn't and things happen, but for the most part, having people you really trust is key. And that, again, like Hope said, is following, letting people know what your vision is and rallying people to what it is you're trying to create. And when that's something that resonates with, an employee, I think that makes them stick around, because it's not just a job, it's a calling.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful.
Definitely. I'll echo that. I mean, I smiled both times that was said. I mean, there has to be buy-in from everyone around you to support you. You can't do everything as one individual. You need a team to support that. And in this business, it takes many hands. It's the epitome of a village, right? Everybody has a role. Everybody has a unique role that's tied to the success, no matter how big or small. And if everyone's not lifting at the same time, typically that's when there's issues. But I from just a leadership, just a general leadership perspective, that's the key. If you have a great vision, but you're not a great leader, guess what? If you're the business owner, you have to find a good leader. You have to find someone who's going to be able to do that, or else you're going to have a fledgling, failing business, because no one's going to care to support your vision. And I've seen that time and time again. That's just a personality thing. That's just who you are as an individual thing. So awareness is key for business owners. But yeah, I mean, if you're not talking about it and you're not getting the people fired up about it, it's tough. So kudos to you, Hope, for incorporating that into like the daily rhetoric. And you have a great situation. You got your mom watching your back. Yo, moms are fierce. I got two moms are fierce. So you got a good fighter in there. And Yvonne, I mean, it's great. You got to tell me how you got to work with your husband. My wife refuses to work with me, but you know, it's just one of those things where it's, you know, discourse and disagreement is just bound to happen, but it's got to be like, it can't be disagreement on the vision. You know, the vision has to be just the foundation. So that's, you know, what what I heard and what I really appreciated was that. So much respect to both of you ladies.
Thank you.
All right. So, Yvonne, how do you make sure the patients have enough medicine?
Enough?
Yes.
Oh, we make sure they leave with ounces. No, I'm just kidding. You know, I think it's, you know, it's a fine line between really helping someone and also being, you know, in retail and and trying to bring up that sales average. I think just being honest about what they need. I think if somebody comes in, you show them, you know, what you believe they truly need. And sometimes that's a lot. And if they can afford it, they'll buy it. And if they can't, they'll, you know, they'll get what they can. But you don't want to hold back, like, well, I'll just get this, you know, because you don't know what people's situations are. You know, you don't ever want to judge anybody and think, oh, they can't afford that, or, oh, you know, I'm pushing too much. You don't push. You just make sure you offer them every option that you have and suggestions. You know, it's retail. You know, at the end of the day, you want to you know, give everybody every opportunity to leave there with, you know, as much as possible, as much as legally possible, right? So so yeah, you know, it's sales. At the end of the day, it's sales, but with a heart. You know, you're not going to push something on somebody that, you know, they don't need. Or, you know, somebody comes in for something, you're like, I'm going to sell them this. You don't want to be that person. You know, you just wanna,
So, Hope or Saman, did you guys want to add to that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's been, I think that's been the challenge that I've seen from day one of like my entry into like the actual product development side of the business. That was like a decade ago in Colorado. And it, you know, it's still a challenge. Education is the biggest challenge. It's hard to motivate certain people to just want to learn about natural medicines and like how the body's dynamically affected from certain intake, you know, forms, and also just the general kind of biological science with like how these things interact with our body. That part of it is pretty deep, and it's become, you know, more deep in the last, you know, few years as a lot of the new research has come out, and I think we've learned a lot. I've also think that there's products that are now created that are actually targeting you know, certain instances of, you know, like maturity in life. You know, one of the products that's actually, we have it in your store, Yvonne, it's called Hello Again. I formulated this product.
hello again.
Menopausal women, and it's like as we go through these changes as humans, we're going to need something that's more targeted for that specifically. Miraculously, you know, we were able to like do a bunch of research that's already been done and read all these things and understand how these components are going to interact with each other to make something that's targeted for menopause. But in other cases, like other sick people can get use out of these suppositories just because of the way they interact with your body. They don't convert the same way. They're not enzymatically changing in your body digestive tract. It's, you know, totally different. It's all in the epithelial layer of the cellular membrane. So like you're not actually getting the delta hydroxy 11 conversion like with edibles. Totally different effect. And I'm not going to sit here and like make claims of what it can and can't do. But when you have people that suffer from things like colon cancer or pancreatic cancer, for instance, maybe eating an edible isn't the best way for them to receive the compounds of interest, right? THC or CBD or whatever that is. It's a form factor has a lot to do with it. It's just understanding that, and that's a little bit of basic knowledge, but most of those bud tenders or consultants or experience
yes, experience
don't understand that basic level of kind of pharmacology, right? So you're going to have to give them the basics. A lot of that's on the brands to do. It's tough for the brands to have representatives in the field all the time because of that attrition rate, right, of people coming and going from those positions. So how do you do that? So education is the key. That is the biggest thing. I think for the most part, the general management of these dispensaries or the buyers of those dispensaries, hopefully they can get more involved with the brands to learn more so they can disseminate that information. I think that helps in the long run. But there's a lot of good, useful products that don't see the light of day because the person selling the product or giving the information to the customer isn't able to really give that information properly. So.
Totally.
Alrighty. Hope, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
I completely agree. Education, I think, a lot of people have been using cannabis for years and they're using it for medicinal purposes and they don't know it. Yeah. So, when you come in and then they start actually having conversation and they start realizing like, oh, okay, maybe, I didn't realize that cannabis was actually helping me in this way. And then maybe they might start taking a little bit more attention to what they're using and what they actually like. And then maybe at that point, they're starting to look at terpene profiles. And, we've seen some patients come in and they've gone from just, regular user to now like a true educated person on the plant and their endocannabinoid system, and they're really starting to understand how it works in their body. So I think that's been really exciting. But something that I think is interesting in a market that's a little bit more like limited, less brands, less product innovation, right? I think it's interesting to see that as a market matures and it becomes more normalized in that market, I think that's when you start to see like the innovation really like thrive, because before that, when there's still a lot of stigma and it's new, it seems like the products that move the fastest, it's like, people are coming in and they're like, what's your cheapest, highest THC flower that you have? And like, that's like the number one question. And so it takes a while for a market to really like mature and then start looking at cannabis in that way. And then, they're open to like, okay, and a lot of people don't even think like, oh, I'm having menstrual cramps or I have PCOS. I should go to the dispensary and maybe they have a product for me. People aren't that's not clicking yet.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that, the industry we're still early, this is going to grow. I think what you're going to see, the type of products and the innovation that you're going to see in the cannabis industry in like the next 20 years is going to be very different. We haven't even started like thinking about what it looks like once federal legalization comes and then we see like more research there. It's going to be very, very different. But yeah, in these like newer markets, especially the limited ones where people are forced to buy from specific people and brands, there's no product innovation, and then if you think about it from a business perspective, what incentive do the businesses have to have product innovation in those markets?
Well, those innovations are coming from other people that have already done it, right? They're just licensing them to like you have your manufacturing license. So if you want to do something novel, you're going to reach out to someone, or they might reach out to you, and they might say, "Hey, Hope, Wiseco, you're one of the handful of manufacturing operators open and operational. We want to partner with you. We want to make a licensing deal with you. We want to bring this cool new technology to New Jersey." Doesn't that sound good?
That's a good way to scale quicker. We get further faster together.
Yeah, but the question to me also is like raised because the question, Shayla, was how do you know that a patient's, or how do they know that they're getting enough medicine? And that's kind of the whole point, right? Is like, look, if you have someone that's coming in there with, let's say, God forbid, terminal cancer, and you're like, hey, well, you're gonna load that person up on as many, maybe FICO, right? And you're gonna give them as many, maybe not just straight edibles, maybe something like RSO is better for those people. Maybe different gradients of cannabinoids, but you're going to load them up on that. You're not going to like say, hey, you need this ounce of flower necessarily. So it just depends. It's also preference, but there's no like, it's you have to intake cannabis and cannabinoids daily, and you have to have a healthy lifestyle if you're sick or in pain and you want to get better. And like, we're the purveyors of that message, right? We're saying, hey, come here. We have the herbs and the vibes you need, and then you need to take that to the next level.
All righty. Well, that leads us to our last question of the night. And I'm going to ask you, Saman, what are your expansion plans and how do you foresee the future of the cannabis industry affecting your business?
So I do many things. I'm kind of not like, I don't just do one thing. That's the problem, I guess. But I also did that purposefully because there's so many things to do in this business, and there's many things that catch my eye, maybe my colleagues' eyes here, but like it's the expansion model into other states with licensing. To me, that's kind of a prehistoric idea at this point. It doesn't always work as well as maybe having the brand that is sought after. And so I'm definitely looking to expand some brands into other states. I am always just looking to connect with different people with different perspectives that all have the same goal. And I can see that energy and passion and fire in their eyes. That's what I look at. But really, it's just the goal for me isn't like this pie in the sky thing anymore. I'm a little older now. I'm a little wiser. Try to be a little wiser. And I think it's really just about finding the people. Once you find the people that you want to build with, there's no ceiling to the ideas. There's definitely a ceiling to the potential. But if you don't have a team that you really can get down with, that are in the trenches with you when the times are bad, and they still have the same energy like when the times are good, those are the people you need. And it takes time. So all I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get my circle of people that I've been doing business with for years, that I trust, that I look at, and I know that have my back. I'm trying to get it in with them more. So that's taking me in some different directions, but that's what I'm planning on doing in 2024 and beyond, is just keeping my circle really tight and doing innovative things together with people that I love and I want to see succeed.
Wow. That's amazing. Well, Hope or Yvonne, did you want to add to that?
I would just say, yeah, sky's the limit, but like Saman, it's not so much pie in the sky anymore. It's the opportunities are still there. You do have to work a little harder. But you just really got to believe in what you're doing. Life's too short to be in any industry unless you totally love it. And we love it and we're passionate about it. So for us, in 2024, we'll be launching, we're a legacy brand, so we're going to launch the High Tide product line, as well as the first Latina brand directed towards the Latino market, which is about to open up in a big way. And that'll be Sirena, which means mermaid in Spanish, going with our mermaid ocean theme. And that'll be more of a luxury brand, where High Tide will be more of a accessible brand to everybody.
All right. That's beautiful. Well, I want to thank you all for coming today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, today's discussion was so interesting, and I hope it answers any questions the audience had. It did for me. As we enter into another year, our industry will grow. I hope there will be more operators like the ones on our panel today. Signing off from Women Grow, this is Shayla Taylor. Good night, everyone. Woo.